So in this segment, we're going to be talking about how Brexit has helped French and Irish ports really benefit in terms of trade. So rain or shine, Colm Lambert likes to sit on a bench overlooking Rosslare port on the southeastern tip of Ireland and watch the new freight ships and passenger ferries sailing in from the Irish Sea, saying, quote, "They're coming in from France, Spain, Belgium, Holland. It's great to see. Brexit has made an awful difference to hear Boris Johnson did Rosslare a favour," end quote. And this is because the land bridge moving goods via GB to go to Ireland or Northern Ireland is gone due to the checks needed on both sides of it going into GB and then exiting GB. A little over 340 nautical miles away in Cherbourg, Normandy, Yannick Millet, the port's managing director, is equally enthusiastic, saying, quote, "The Brits may be suffering from Brexit, but for us it's boom time. Traffic with Ireland is through the roof," end quote. For decades, the cheapest and fastest way to move goods between Ireland and the continent was the so-called land bridge via Britain and the Dover-Calais crossing. Brexit's double whammy of customs checks and delays has hugely increased both costs and uncertainty, prompting businesses to bypass the UK. And it makes sense that the other ports in France would be doing well because, Calais is closest to Dover, whilst the other ports would have a much easier time of getting around Great Britain towards Ireland. It's a bit of a shorter route. Before the UK left the EU, Rosslare Europort was an underused facility with just 6 sailings a week to the continent, all into Cherbourg. Now it has 30 plus to Cherbourg, Le Havre, shouts out Paul Pogba, Bilbao, Dunkirk and Zeebrugge, a 5-fold increase that has led to overall freight traffic. Quote, "Brexit has given us an opportunity," end quote, said Glenn Carr, the port's general manager, saying again, quote, "Industry wanted stability in the supply chain, we adapted," end quote. And it makes sense. Millet says there's a real dynamic with Ireland and authorities at both ends are working hard to foster it. End quote. He goes on to say, quote, "In terms of our passenger numbers, Ireland has now overtaken the UK and that looks certain to continue. And as for freight, it's trebled more and more. Ireland is looking like the future," end quote. This is really good, a really good way for Ireland to diversify its economy. For France, you're kind of more shuffling things around, so I don't know how much of an impact it will have on their overall economy, but for kind of creating some jobs in other ports. But for Ireland, I think this is pretty big for them. There are a lot of services based in Ireland, and thanks to Brexit, a lot more of them will move there in time. But this gives Ireland more of a chance to become a great seafaring nation. I don't know the exact term, but it's the thing that they want Britain to be, the Brexiteers. But it's going to boost the ports and increase the jobs there by a lot. Ireland was already looking to export more to the rest of the world, so more port expansions can help with that. Freight to and from mainland Europe soared, with just 36,000 units in 2019 to 125,000 in 2021 and 137,000 in 2022. That has more than offset a slump in freight to and from Britain, which fell from 104,000 units in 2019 to 65,000 in 2021 and 63,500 last year. So you can see a consistent drop off with Britain. So you can see the impact on Brexit that has on the ports. But there's also damage to the places that lorries passed by in Great Britain when they were going to, say, a port in Wales from a port in Wales to Dover. That drivers would have had to eat on the way and probably stay in a hotel potentially. But I think typically drivers, they do stay in their lorries, to be fair. But small things like this will damage some businesses in Great Britain. But to Ireland's gain, you'd stay in a lorry park, for example. The surge in continental traffic has created more than 200 new jobs around Rosslare Port, which is operated by the state-owned Irish Rail and boosted the entire region, Carr said. Quote, "And the port is the engine driver for the southeast," end quote, he added. So this means more money for the Irish taxman too, given that this is a state-owned company. You'll love to see it. Nolan Transport, a family-owned business, recently opened a 150,000 cubic metre warehouse and logistics facility outside the port, a €12 million investment. Quote, "Brexit has caused huge disruption for us, but our European business is now flourishing," end quote, said Noel Noland, a managing director. The new warehouse has increased the company's capacity from 5,000 pallets to 22,000 pallets. It plans to build another 4 and expects to fill at least half of them with goods from the UK, saying, quote, "Customs brings cost and delay. We feel we can offer a one-stop shop solution," end quote, said Noland. And I have read there are more businesses like the bike one we mentioned a while ago, sending their goods to Ireland and then a company over there, which probably would be this one, dealing with the VAT and the paperwork. I found it a bit odd, but perhaps this warehouse space may be cheaper to rent than the ones in the Netherlands. And on top of that, you do get the Irish business as well for anyone in Ireland that would be interested in the wares that you sell. But we can see warehouses being built because they know a lot of goods will be flowing in there. It might also be goods destined for GB as well, hence the talks of paperwork and customs. But it looks like this is where British businesses are selling their wares or storing their wares to then potentially be transported onto the continent. The Normans first landed on the southwest of Wexford coast 850 years ago at the request of Dermot MacMorrough, the deposed king of Leinster, who enlisted their support in reconquering his realm, Hoare said. Quote, they never really left. They had a really profound impact on everything, from our architecture to our agriculture. Even today, more than a third of the surnames in County Wexford are of Norman origin, end quote, and the Normans were a group of people that originated in Normandy, France. They were descendants of Viking settlers. There is something that's something I didn't know much about. So there's a historical link between Ireland and I think this specific part of Ireland and France, and it's clear some people want to use that to expand the tourism as well as trade, and it makes sense given it's harder for EU citizens to travel to the UK, or should I say, to the UK due to no freedom of movement. So it makes Ireland a good option. It's not that much further away, and there are a lot more ferries going there now. Monica McLaverty of Tourism Ireland said roughly 550,000 French holidaymakers a year already represented Ireland's fourth largest market. She said, quote, and ferry passengers are valuable. They bring their car, travel around and stay longer, end quote. Off the ferry on the Quai de Calangi, sorry, some French word, overlooking Cherbourg's marina, Etienne Labastard, who runs the Comptoir selling all things Irish, from sweaters and soda bread to whiskey and Celtic jewellery, said he sensed a growing interest, saying, quote, this shop has been here for more than 20 years. Brexit seems to have been good for Ireland and France. For the UK, I'm not so sure, end quote. And it's a bit mean, but Brexit has given Ireland and France some opportunities to replace the things that Great Britain has done in terms of trade, and fair play to them. They can push for trade and tourism, really diversify their economy and create more jobs. Ireland was almost a victim of Brexit, with unionists using it as a way to unpick the Good Friday Agreement, but it might become a success story of Brexit. At least some parts of Ireland will benefit from Brexit and really make a success of it. And no doubt these ports will be one of the major winners of this whole scenario. And it's not just them increasing trade, but also trying to get British companies to store their wares in the Irish ports, do all their paperwork and all the things for them, and then sell off those goods. You're talking a lot more money than just transporting goods here. This is some smart plays that we're seeing, and it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here, I'll be honest. The Netherlands is seen as one of the great kind of maritime trading nations, and maybe another one that could pop up a bit more is Ireland. They can't compete with the Netherlands, given the size of the ports and the history of the Netherlands and the geography of it, but we might see some interesting stuff come out from Ireland when it comes to more maritime trade. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.